Unsettling photographs with no explanation. A photograph is a single moment frozen in time forever. It captures a smile, a place, a memory. But sometimes, when that film is developed or that digital file is opened, something is there that wasn't there before. A shape in the shadows, a face in the crowd, a figure that simply should not exist. These are the photographs that haunt us, the ones that have no easy answers, leaving us with a cold, unsettling feeling. They are moments that were frozen, not in memory but in fear. Before we begin, I have a question for you. Have you ever taken a photo and later on when you looked at it, you saw something in the background or in the corner that you couldn't explain? Let me know your story in the comments below. And if you like mysteries that keep you up at night, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and turn on all notifications so you never miss a new story from the unknown. Now, let's look at the images that should not be. Our first story takes us back to a sunny day in 1964 in a place called Cumbria in England. A man named Jim Templeton decided to take his family out for a day trip. He, his wife Annie, and their young daughter Elizabeth went to a local beauty spot known as Burgh Marsh. It was supposed to be a perfect family day. The sun was out, the air was fresh, and the marshes were quiet and empty. They were completely alone, or so they thought. Jim was a keen amateur photographer. He had brought his camera along to capture some memories of his 5-year-old daughter. He found a nice spot and had Elizabeth pose for a few pictures. She was wearing a lovely new dress and was holding a small bouquet of flowers he had picked for her. He took 3 photos of her that afternoon. In each one, she was sitting, smiling, enjoying the day. Jim didn't notice anything unusual at all while he was taking the pictures. There was no one else around, just the sound of the wind and the birds. It was peaceful. A few days later, Jim took the film to a chemist to get it developed. When he went back to pick up the prints, the man behind the counter looked at him strangely. He said that it was a shame one of the best shots of his daughter had been spoiled by a man who walked into the background. Jim was confused. He told the man that was impossible. They had been the only people on the marsh that day. There was nobody else for miles around. He took the photos and looked through them. The first and third photos were perfectly normal, just sweet pictures of his little girl. But the second photo, the one the chemist was talking about, made his blood run cold. There, standing directly behind his daughter Elizabeth, was a figure. It was tall and seemed to be wearing a brilliant white, bulky suit, much like an astronaut's spacesuit. It had a dark helmet with a visor, so you couldn't see a face. The figure was standing in a strange, unnatural pose, as if it had just appeared there for a split second. It was turned slightly away from the camera, looking out over the marsh. Jim was completely baffled. He knew, he was absolutely certain, that there was no one there when he took that picture. His wife Annie was with him, but she had been standing behind him out of the shot while he took the photos. He remembered it clearly. And even if she had somehow walked into the shot without him noticing, she was wearing a pale blue dress that day, not a massive white suit. The figure was also much taller than his wife. It made no sense at all, he couldn't explain it. He sent the photograph to the police, who examined it and concluded that there was nothing suspicious about it. They couldn't explain it either. He then sent it to Kodak, the company that made the film. They offered free film for life to anyone who could prove one of their photos had been faked. They put their top experts on the case, analyzing the negative from top to bottom. Their conclusion came back and it only deepened the mystery. Kodak confirmed that the negative had not been tampered with in any way. The figure was genuinely there in the frame when the picture was taken. It was not a double exposure. It was not a trick of the light. It was a solid object standing behind his daughter. The story was picked up by newspapers, and it became a worldwide phenomenon. The picture was nicknamed the Solway Firth Spaceman. People came up with all sorts of theories. Skeptics tried to explain it away. The most common explanation is that the figure is actually Jim's wife, Annie, after all. The theory goes that she was wearing her light blue dress, and due to the bright sunlight and overexposure from the camera, the color of her dress was washed out, making it appear white. They say she had her back to the camera, and her dark hair combined with the angle created the illusion of a helmet. But Jim Templeton never accepted this explanation. He was there. He knew where his wife was standing. He insisted until the day he died that she was not in that photograph, and that the figure remains a total mystery. He was an experienced photographer with a good quality camera. He would have seen his own wife walking into the frame right in front of him. It's just not plausible to him. The story then takes an even stranger turn. A little while after the photo became famous, Jim claimed he was visited by two mysterious men. They didn't say where they were from, only that they were government agents, and they referred to each other only by numbers, not names. They drove a black car and wore dark suits. They asked him to take them to the exact spot where he took the photograph. When they got there, the men asked him a series of bizarre questions about the weather on that day and the behavior of the local birds. Jim told them he hadn't noticed anything strange. The men then became frustrated and revealed that they had seen the figure too. They told him it was an alien, a visitor. As they were driving away, they turned to him and asked, "You'll see them again." They then left, and he never saw them again. Was this a genuine visit from the men in black, or just a part of the story that grew over time? We don't know. There was also another strange coincidence. At the time the photo was taken, a missile launch at a testing range in Australia was happening. The launch had to be aborted because two large unidentified figures were seen on the firing range. Technicians who later saw the Solway Firth spaceman photograph said the figure in the picture looked exactly the same as the figures they had seen on their monitors, the ones that stopped the missile launch on the other side of the world. Could they be connected? We are left with a photograph that defies all easy explanation, a simple family photo from a sunny afternoon that captured something impossible. Was it just a strange trick of light and shadow and the back of a loving mother? Or did Jim Templeton and his daughter have a silent visitor that day, a spaceman on the marsh, frozen in time by the click of a camera? Next, we move from a wide-open marsh to the cozy confines of a new home. The story goes that in the 1950s, a family named Cooper moved into an old house in Texas. To celebrate their new beginning, they decided to take a family photograph in the dining room. It was a happy occasion. The family, consisting of the mother, the grandmother, and two young children, gathered around the table for a celebratory meal. The father, Mr. Cooper, was the one holding the camera. He wanted to capture this perfect, happy moment forever. He framed the shot, with his family smiling, and clicked the shutter. Later, when the film was developed, the family gathered to look at the photos from that happy day. As they looked at the picture taken in the dining room, their joy turned to horror. The photograph was disturbing. The image of the smiling family was there, but there was something else in the photo, something terrifying that nobody had seen at the time. Hanging upside down from the ceiling on the left side of the frame was what looked like a body, a dark, shadowy figure, falling or dangling into the room. Its face is blacked out and its form is indistinct, but it is undeniably the shape of a human body. It's a grotesque and shocking intrusion into what was supposed to be a cherished family memory. The Cooper family was, of course, deeply disturbed. How could this have happened? There was no one else in the room. There was nothing hanging from the ceiling. They had no explanation for the gruesome figure that had appeared in their family portrait. The image is one of the most famous and chilling ghost photographs on the internet. For decades, it has been shared on forums and in videos, often with a story attached. The story claims that the Cooper family, terrified by the photo, began to research the history of their new house. They allegedly discovered a horrific secret, that the previous owner had taken his own life in that very room by hanging himself from the rafters. The photo, the story says, captured the lingering spirit of that tragic event. This backstory, of course, adds a thick layer of terror to an already unsettling image. The idea that a family celebrating a new life in a home could accidentally photograph the final desperate moments of a previous life is the stuff of nightmares. It suggests that terrible events can leave a stain on a place, an echo that can sometimes be seen, or in this case, photographed. However, it's crucial to point out that the origin of this story, and even the identity of the Cooper family, is very hard to verify. The photo exists, but the tale that goes with it might just be an urban legend created to make a weird picture even scarier. So what could be the real explanation? Skeptics and photography experts have a much more down-to-earth theory. They believe the falling body is simply the result of a double exposure. A double exposure is a technical mistake where a single piece of film is exposed to light twice, creating two separate images layered on top of each other. The camera might have malfunctioned, or the film might have been used before. The theory suggests that the family portrait of the Coopers was accidentally taken over another pre-existing image on the same frame of film. That other image, experts suggest, might have been of something like a ballerina dancing or an object hanging. When the two images were combined, the result was the accidental creation of this horrifying falling figure. If you look closely at the figure, you can almost see how it might be something else. The body could be the leg and dark dress of a dancer, captured in motion. The dark face could just be a shadow or another part of the image that blended in a strange way. This explanation is logical and technically sound. It's a common mistake, especially with the older film cameras of the 1950s. It's certainly more believable than a ghost, but the logical explanation doesn't take away the chilling power of the image itself. Even if it's just a mistake, the result is pure nightmare fuel. The way the figure hangs there, dark and menacing over a happy family, creates a powerful sense of dread. It taps into our fear of the unknown, the fear that even in our safest spaces, in our own homes, something dark can be lurking just out of sight. The mystery surrounding the family also adds to the legend. Who were the Coopers? What happened to them after this photo was taken? The fact that we don't know allows our imaginations to run wild. So we are left with two possibilities. Was this a simple, explainable photographic error, a random combination of two separate images that just happened to create something that looks like a falling body? Or did the Cooper family's camera capture something more sinister, a ghostly echo of a past tragedy, a dark presence that had attached itself to their new home, making its presence known in the most terrifying way imaginable? Whatever the truth, the photograph remains a stark and unsettling reminder that sometimes the camera can see things that our eyes cannot. Our next photograph takes us back in time to the aftermath of one of the darkest periods in human history. The year is 1919. World War I has just ended, and the world is trying to heal. Our story centers on a squadron of the Royal Air Force stationed at a training facility called HMS Daedalus. The men of this squadron had been through hell. They had seen things that no person should ever have to see. They had lost friends, brothers in arms, to the brutal realities of aerial combat. To commemorate their service and their survival, a group photograph was arranged. The entire squadron, from the pilots to the mechanics, gathered together for a formal portrait. They stood in neat rows, their faces a mixture of pride, relief, and the lingering sadness of war. A retired RAF officer named Sir Victor Goddard was part of this squadron. He kept a copy of this photograph for many years. It was a memento of his time in the service and the men he served with. But there was something strange about this particular photograph, something that nobody noticed at first. It wasn't until later, when looking closely at the print, that one of the men spotted it. There in the back row, peeking out from behind the head of another airman, was an extra face. It was a ghostly, translucent face, and it clearly didn't belong to any of the men who were supposed to be in the picture. It was a pale, disembodied head, looking straight at the camera. At first, it was just a strange anomaly. But then, several members of the squadron looked closer, and a wave of shock and disbelief spread among them. They recognized the face. The ghostly face in the photograph belonged to a man named Freddie Jackson. Freddie was an air mechanic in the squadron. The truly chilling part of this story is the timing. Freddie Jackson was dead. He had been killed in a tragic accident on the airfield just 2 days before this squadron photograph was taken. He had accidentally walked into the spinning propeller of an airplane and was killed instantly. His funeral had taken place on the very same day that the rest of his squadron was lining up for their group portrait. The men of the squadron were convinced. The face in the photo was their friend, Freddie. They believed that his spirit, unwilling to miss out on the official squadron photograph and wanting to be with his comrades one last time, had decided to show up. The idea was both comforting and deeply eerie. It suggested that their friend was still with them in some way, watching over them. Sir Victor Goddard, who later became a high-ranking air marshal, maintained the truth of this story throughout his life. He often spoke of the paranormal and believed this photograph was genuine proof of life after death. Naturally, skeptics have offered more rational explanations. The most common theory is that, like the Cooper family photo, this is another case of a double exposure. Photography in 1919 was a much less precise science than it is today. It's possible that the photographic plate used for the group portrait had been previously and accidentally exposed to another image, perhaps a portrait of Freddie Jackson when he was still alive. When the group photo was taken over it, his faint image remained, creating the ghostly effect. It's a plausible explanation. A smudge on the lens, a watermark during development, or simply a trick of light and shadow are also offered up as possibilities. The human brain is hardwired to see faces in random patterns, a phenomenon called pareidolia. Perhaps the face is just a coincidental collection of smudges and shadows that the grieving airmen, with Freddie Jackson fresh on their minds, interpreted as his face. But the members of the squadron were unshakable in their belief. They didn't just see a random face-like pattern, they saw Freddie. They recognized his features. The timing is also what makes this case so compelling. For the ghost of a man to appear in a photograph with his unit on the day of his own funeral is a coincidence that feels too perfect, too meaningful to be random. It's a story that transcends simple explanation and speaks to themes of friendship, loss, and loyalty that go beyond the grave. The photograph of Goddard's squadron has become one of the most famous ghost photos of all time. It's not a scary or menacing image. In fact, it's rather poignant. It's the image of a group of survivors, and among them a friend who couldn't be there in body, but perhaps, just perhaps, managed to be there in spirit. So what do we see when we look at this old, faded photograph? Is it a technical glitch from a bygone era of photography? A smudge on a plate that a group of grieving men wanted to believe was their lost friend? Or is it a genuine glimpse across the veil, a final farewell from a loyal air mechanic, Freddie Jackson, ensuring he would forever be remembered as part of the squadron he served? From the sky, we now go to the sea. Our next mystery takes us to the coast of Queensland, Australia, in 1964. A man named Robert Leserek, his wife, and a family friend were enjoying a day out on their boat in a place called Stonehaven Bay, near Hook Island. The water was calm and clear. It was a beautiful day. As they were cruising through the shallow lagoon, Leserek's wife spotted something unusual in the water. It was a huge, dark shape lying on the sandy bottom. At first, they thought it might be a large log or a sheet of dark plastic. But as they got closer, they realized it was something else entirely. It was enormous. They estimated it to be around 80 feet long. It had a distinct, tadpole-like or snake-like shape. It was dark, almost black, with smooth-looking skin. They couldn't see any fins or a distinct head, but there seemed to be what looked like a wound or a pale marking on one side. They were completely mystified. They had never seen any known marine animal that looked like this. It was just lying there, motionless, on the bottom of the lagoon. Intrigued and a little nervous, Leserek grabbed his camera and began taking pictures of the creature from the safety of his boat. After watching it for a while, they decided to get a closer look. They slowly motored their boat nearer to the giant shape. As they approached, the creature began to move. It slowly opened what they described as a mouth at its front end. The inside of the mouth looked pale. It then began to swim away from them, moving slowly at first, and then picking up speed. It moved through the water with a smooth serpentine motion. It didn't seem aggressive, more like it was just trying to get away from the boat. They followed it for a short distance, but it eventually disappeared into the deeper water. Leserek's photographs are incredible. They show a massive, dark, serpent-like creature, just as he described. The scale is hard to judge, but it certainly looks very large against the sandy sea floor. The photos were published in a magazine and caused a sensation. The Hook Island sea monster, as it became known, was one of the most compelling pieces of evidence for the existence of unknown sea creatures, or cryptids. For years, these photos were held up by cryptozoologists as proof that there are still giants lurking in the depths of our oceans. The theories about what the creature could be were numerous. Some believed it was a surviving prehistoric marine reptile, like a plesiosaur or a mosasaur. Others thought it might be a new, undiscovered species of giant eel or whale. The sheer size and strange shape didn't match anything known to marine biology at the time. The photos were clear, taken in broad daylight, and seemed to show a real solid animal. For many, this was the real deal. However, like all good mysteries, there is a skeptical side to the story. Over the years, researchers have looked into the case and found some details that cast doubt on the whole encounter. It turns out that Robert Le Sirec was not just a random family man on a boat trip. He had a history of financial troubles and was reportedly trying to raise money to start a new venture. Some have suggested that the whole thing was a hoax, a clever scheme to make money. The theory goes that Le Sirec and his friends created the monster themselves. How could they have done it? The most popular hoax theory is that the creature was actually a large sheet of black plastic, weighed down with sand to make it sink and hold its shape on the sea floor. They could have laid it out in the shallow lagoon, taken the photos, and then pulled it up with ropes when they pretended it was swimming away. This would explain the smooth skin, the lack of distinct features, and the way it lay motionless at first. It's a clever and plausible explanation for how such a convincing-looking creature could be faked with relatively simple materials. Another theory suggests it may have been a natural phenomenon that was misinterpreted, such as a large school of fish or squid swimming in a tight formation, creating the illusion of a single giant creature. However, this seems less likely given the solid appearance of the object in the photos. The hoax theory seems to be the one that most skeptics lean towards. The fact that the man who took the photos might have had a financial motive for creating a sensational story is a pretty big red flag. Despite these doubts, the photographs themselves remain undeniably creepy. Whether it's a real sea monster or a sheet of plastic, the image of that massive, dark shape in the clear water is unsettling. It plays on our primal fear of what lies beneath the surface. The ocean is vast and largely unexplored. We know more about the surface of the moon than we do about the deepest parts of our own planet's seas. So is it really so impossible to believe that there could be creatures out there that we haven't discovered yet? The Hook Island photos leave us in a difficult position. Do we believe the incredible story of a man who stumbled upon a living prehistoric monster? Or do we believe the more cynical but perhaps more realistic explanation of a clever hoax? The evidence is not conclusive either way. Robert Le Sirec never confessed to a hoax, and his story remained consistent. The photos have been examined and don't show obvious signs of tampering. So the question remains, what did the Le Sirec family see in Stonehaven Bay that day? Was it a trick to make money or a genuine encounter with a monster from the deep? Let's now turn our attention to one of the most analyzed and debated events in modern history, the assassination of President John F. Kennedy in Dallas, Texas, on November 22, 1963. The event was captured on film and in photographs from multiple angles. Every frame of footage, every photograph, has been scrutinized by investigators and conspiracy theorists for decades. Amidst the chaos, the panic, and the tragedy of that day, one mysterious figure stands out, a figure known only as the Babushka Lady. In the films and photos of the assassination, you can see the crowds lining the streets, cheering and waving as the presidential motorcade passes by. When the shots ring out, the scene erupts into chaos. People scream, they duck for cover, they run for their lives. But amidst all this panic, one woman remains strangely calm. She is standing in the grass between Elm Street and Main Street, relatively close to the president's car. She is wearing a light brown or tan overcoat and a headscarf, tied in a style similar to those worn by elderly Russian women, which is where she gets her nickname, Babushka Lady. What makes her so mysterious is not just her calm demeanor in a moment of sheer terror, but what she is doing. She is holding what appears to be a camera up to her face, and she seems to be filming the entire event. While everyone else is running or hiding, she stands her ground, apparently focused on capturing the assassination on film. She is visible in multiple pieces of footage from that day, including the famous Zapruder film. In the footage, she can be seen continuing to film even after the fatal shot has been fired, and the motorcade has sped away towards the hospital. After a few moments, she lowers her camera, crosses the street, and disappears into the crowd, vanishing from history. The identity of the Babushka Lady has never been confirmed. In the massive investigation that followed the assassination, the FBI and other agencies put out a public call for any and all photographs and films taken that day. Many people came forward. Their footage was crucial in piecing together the timeline of events, but the babushka lady never did. The film she potentially shot, which would have been taken from a unique and valuable vantage point, has never been seen. It is one of the great missing pieces of evidence from that day. Who was she, and why did she never come forward? The theories are endless. Some believe she was just an ordinary tourist who was in shock and didn't realize the gravity of what she had just filmed. Perhaps she was scared to get involved in such a high-profile and dangerous investigation. Maybe she didn't think her film was any good, or maybe it was damaged. These are the simple, mundane explanations. But for an event so shrouded in conspiracy, simple explanations are rarely satisfying. The more elaborate theories suggest she was part of the conspiracy itself. Was she a spotter, a lookout for one of the shooters? Was she there to document the event for some secret organization? Some have even suggested that she wasn't a woman at all, but a man in disguise. Her calm behavior is often cited as evidence that she was not a normal bystander. She knew what was going to happen, and her job was to record it. This theory turns her from a mysterious witness into a sinister participant. Over the years, a few women have come forward claiming to be the babushka lady. The most famous was a woman named Beverly Oliver, who came forward in 1970. She claimed she was the woman in the film and that she had filmed the assassination with an experimental movie camera. Her story was sensational. She claimed that a few days after the assassination, she was approached by federal agents who confiscated her film and never returned it. Her story has been heavily promoted by some conspiracy theorists, but it has also been largely debunked by investigators. There are many inconsistencies in her account, and most researchers do not believe she is the real babushka lady. So the mystery endures. The babushka lady remains a ghost in the historical record. She is a symbol of the unanswered questions that still surround that dark day in Dallas. Her film, if it ever existed and if it survived, could potentially hold clues that could change our understanding of what happened. It might show a shooter on the grassy knoll, or it might show nothing at all. But because it is missing, it represents a void, a piece of the puzzle that we will likely never have. The image of her standing calmly with her camera while the world falls apart around her is deeply unsettling. It's a picture of composure in the face of absolute horror. Was she a brave citizen journalist, a frightened tourist, or something much more sinister? We can only speculate. The babushka lady is a frozen moment of mystery within a frozen moment of tragedy, a silent witness who took her secrets with her when she walked away and vanished forever. Our final story for tonight involves not just one photograph but a series of them, and a mass sighting that remains one of the most famous and perplexing UFO cases in history. This is the story of the Phoenix Lights. It happened on the night of March 13, 1997. Thousands of people across the state of Arizona, and even in parts of Mexico, looked up at the sky and saw something they could not explain. The sightings happened in two distinct waves. The first event, which occurred around 8:30 p.m., was a series of lights in a large V-shaped formation. The object or objects moved silently and steadily across the sky from north to south over the city of Phoenix. Witnesses described it as being absolutely huge, some saying it was as big as a mile wide. They said it was so large that it blocked out the stars as it passed overhead. It made no sound at all, which was one of the most unsettling things about it. A craft of that size should have been making a deafening roar, but it was completely silent. Thousands of people, from police officers to pilots to ordinary families in their backyards, saw this V-shaped craft. The second wave of sightings occurred a few hours later, around 10 p.m. This time, people saw a series of stationary, amber-colored orbs of light hanging in the sky over the city. These lights remained in a fixed position for a long period of time before slowly fading out one by one. Many people took photographs and videos of these lights. These images flooded the news and became the iconic visual representation of the Phoenix Lights event. The public reaction was immediate and massive. People were scared, excited, and confused. They flooded police and news station phone lines, all reporting the same unbelievable sight. The governor of Arizona at the time, Fife Symington, initially tried to downplay the event. He held a press conference where he brought out an aide dressed in an alien costume, trying to make a joke of the whole thing and tell people not to worry. However, years later, after he was out of office, Symington publicly apologized for mocking his constituents. He confessed that he too had seen the giant V-shaped craft that night, and he described it as otherworldly. He said it was enormous and like nothing he had ever seen before. He became a firm believer that the craft was not of human origin. So what were the Phoenix Lights? The official explanation from the military is a tale of two separate, unrelated events. The second wave of lights, the stationary orbs that were widely photographed, were explained as military flares. The Air National Guard confirmed that they were on a training exercise that night and had dropped a series of high-intensity flares from an A-10 Warthog aircraft over a bombing range southwest of Phoenix. These flares are designed to burn very brightly and fall very slowly on parachutes, which would explain why they appeared to be stationary for a long time. Many photographs and videos, when analyzed, do seem to be consistent with the appearance of military flares seen from a long distance. However, many witnesses do not accept this explanation. They insist that what they saw were not flares. They were distinct, individual orbs of light that were in a perfect formation and did not appear to be drifting down on parachutes. They also questioned the timing and location, saying the lights they saw did not match the military's account. But the bigger mystery is the first event, the giant, silent, V-shaped craft. The military has never offered a satisfactory official explanation for this. The flare explanation does not account for the massive, solid, black triangular object that thousands of people, including the governor, claim to have seen. One theory suggests that this was a formation of conventional aircraft flying together. A group of planes flying in a V formation at night could, from a distance, look like a single large object. This would explain the V shape, but it doesn't explain the complete silence reported by so many witnesses or the sheer scale of the object they described. This leaves the more extraordinary possibility. Was the craft seen over Phoenix that night a genuine UFO, a vehicle from another world or another dimension? The sheer number of credible witnesses makes this case incredibly difficult to dismiss. These weren't just a few isolated people. It was a mass sighting across an entire state. The photographs and videos from that night, especially of the second wave of lights, are a permanent record of the event. While many can be explained away as flares, they still capture a moment of collective wonder and fear. They show us what thousands of people saw that night, a pattern of lights that did not belong in the sky. The Phoenix Lights case is a perfect example of how a photograph can both reveal and conceal the truth. The images prove that something strange was in the sky over Arizona, but they don't and can't tell us exactly what it was. They are a frozen record of a question mark hanging over a city. Were they flares, a secret military craft, or something else entirely? 25 years later, we still don't have a definitive answer, and the photographs of the Phoenix Lights remain unsettling pieces of evidence in one of the largest UFO mysteries of our time.